All right. So here's the story of me taking my jet pump apart 4 times, mostly because of misdiagnostics. We go all the way back to the very beginning here. So I was on a river with my neighbor across the street, way upriver, hours upriver. Uh, Finally, we got low on fuel. We had to turn around and go back. Right around that time, we turned around. The boat started making this weird little whirring noise, uh, kind of a bearing noise. And my buddy's boat had just had a thrust bearing failure on his pump, and the noise sounded kind of similar to, very similar to his noise that he had, at the beginning when his bearing started going bad. So I get home and immediately take the pump apart. I ordered a new bearing, and I go to replace the bearing, and the old one doesn't doesn't feel bad at all. It actually feels just as good as the new one. So I just replace it anyways. Get it all back together, and next time we had it in the water, we went up north to a reservoir, right, to actually go to a hot boat meet, and we put it in the water, and I noticed it's making the exact same sound as before. Um, so I'm scratching my head. Everybody goes over to the sandbar, hangs out with all the hot boats. I wanted to go upriver. I wanted to see if I could make it to the next dam. So I go on that ride. I'm getting all the way back. I just coming around the last corner, coming back to the sandbar, and like 35 miles an hour, the boat all of a sudden just, bah, it just kills the boat, takes it right off plane. And even at idle speed, it's vibrating and rattling the whole boat really bad. Like, okay, okay. So, I idled back to the sandbar. I had my buddy tow me all the way back up to the boat ramp that day. Um, so I just put this new bearing in there. Obviously, it's a defective bearing. You know, that never happened before. Like the bearing cavitated, and it killed the boat. I don't. It doesn't really make any sense, but I don't. So I took it all back apart again, and you feel the thrust bearing. It feels like brand new. So I'm scratching my head for a while again, and finally it just kind of occurs to me, like, what if the packing's loosened up? And it took a big old swig of air, and that's what happened. That's what took it off plane. I go to check the followers for the packings, and they're loose. So I snugged those up and put it all back together with that same bearing because it didn't feel bad. And this time we go right around the corner to this little tiny narrow river over here just to get it in the water and see what happens. So we get it in the water, and the pump seems to be functioning normal again. It's not vibrating, shaking the hell out of the boat, but it's still making that noise. I got a little hatch on the back of my boat that just, you can look right down on the very top of the jet pump, just in the very back of the boat behind the hood. So I'm laying on the hood just looking at this pump like, what the hell is making this noise, dude? What could possibly be made? It's a jet pump. There's nothing to it. And finally, we pull our heads out of our asses and we open the hood. You could clearly tell from that point that it was not coming from the pump at all. My engine is solid mounted. Everything is solid mounted. The alternator is all rigid mounted. The alternator I have is a reverse. It spins backwards. The alternator is mounted backwards. So I had to put a special bidirectional fan on the alternator. It's made out of steel. Well, that thing was slowly, well, little by little, was ejecting those little veins off of it and leaving them in a little pile in the bilge below it. The fan, the alternator, the steel alternator fan. Well, it had 3 or 4 of them veins in a row that were gone, so it threw the alternator way the hell out of balance and took the bearings out of it. So, and it's solid mounted to the boat, like it's echoing through the entire boat. You couldn't even hardly tell where the noise was coming from. That's why it was fooling me. Uh, I happened to look over the outside of the boat, right where close to where the alternator is located, on the outside of the boat, for about this much distance, the hull was bubbling. It was like percolating from the vibrations of the bearings of the alternator being bad. Bizarre. Okay, so we're like, the alternator's just that's the only I thought it was, we had a drive problem. It was rattling the hell out of the entire boat, shaking the whole boat, and the noise was terrible. Like, I was for sure it was the drive. It's got to be the drive, right? I mean, it's alternator bearings. So we said, to hell with it. Well, let's go for a boat ride. We got it in the water right here. We just came down here to test it, but what the hell? Let's go up to the dam. So we take off running the alternator, just screaming the whole. I'm like, I don't care. I got two batteries. I can probably run for an hour and a half on the batteries. Let it come apart. So we get all the way up to this next dam. I didn't know that they filled everywhere leading up to the dam. They filled up with gravel. So I come whistling Dixie in there, thinking it's as deep as it used to be. No, I mean, we just come skidding in there, just all the way to a stop, way up into this gravel bar. So my buddy hops on the front of the boat, and it actually helps to kind of get the back end of it up, and we start prodding away at the gravel with the big rod, and we get ourselves moved and get back out of there. Where we're floating again. I fire the boat up. It's sitting there going because it's got gravel right in the wear ring, and I'm like, come on, get it worked out of there already. We're running it and finally it quit. Like, jeez, a brand new wear ring. I just put this wear ring and impeller in before this whole episode. So we take off running back down towards the boat ramp, and there's a couple people on the bank, so I'm a show off. I trim up, start throwing a rooster tail. I look behind me, and normally it's a column of water coming out of the pump. Like, it's coming out and spraying in this flat pattern, like slinging water sideways way the hell over the other side of the river. Like, what the hell is that? I trim back down, like, okay. So we get it back, and this time I'm like, okay, I don't know. I apparently roached the pump on that gravel bar, but whatever, the boat's still kind of half-ass functioning. It seems fine still. So I don't know. A couple days later, we go up to this other lake I wanted to explore. It's drawn down right now, but you can still put in and still get around. So we go all the way up there, and then we run that lake. I mean, it's a flooded river, so we go way, 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 way upriver, and we're playing around up there. Just up on the real narrow, windy rivers up, bouncing off of logs and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the boat won't get on plane. Like it's got weeds in the grate. It happens all the time. All the time. Like we're always getting in the water to clean off the grate, and that's how it's acting. So my buddy climbs out, gets in the water, and comes back up, and he's like, "Hey, nothing on the grate." I'm like, "It must be inside the pump. You gotta take the inspection cover off." So we pull the cover off. Ain't nothing in there either. Like, what the hell? The boat wouldn't get up on plane. The whole rest of that time, we had to idle all the way back to the boat ramp. And at this point, I'm like, this boat is a piece of shit. This used to be a reliable boat. What the hell is going on with this thing? Every time I put it in the water. So now we get back and we take it apart again. So now in the very end of the bowl, where all the veins come together, two of the veins totally plugged off with gravel. I'm like, well, that explains the goofy, sideways spray pattern thing it was doing. But my buddy's like, that's it, man. We're good. Let's get them out of there. We'll be good to go. I'm like, no, dude, that's not the problem. The boat wouldn't get up on plane. It was cavitating. Like, that's not it. And he's like, well, what the hell? I'm like, the only other thing it could possibly be is there's something stuck in the impeller. So we pull the bowl off and we're poking around, looking around. Sure as shit, there's a rock stuck in the impeller. And he's like, we were up out there on that lake. There was no gravel up there. It was all mud on the bottom. How did we get a rock in the impeller? I'm like, I bet you money it was stuck in the grate the whole time since our little escapade over on the gravel bar. And it just happened to just pop out of there, and it got stuck in the damn impeller and didn't get pumped through like all the rest of them did. So we get all that crap cleaned out of it. I think this whole episode is over with, you know. Okay, so the next time I go to put it in the water, my cousin up north wanted me to come up to his lake that his parents live on and go in this boat parade with him. So I'm like, yeah, dude, all right, I'll haul it up there. What the hell? So his dad, hops in my Jeep, and me and my cousin just hop in the boat, and he backs us down in the water, and we turn around, take off idling out into the lake. And I go to accelerate a little bit, and the boat kind of just and doesn't really go anywhere. I'm like, what the? I didn't want to. My cousin never been in the boat. I hadn't seen him in a long time. I wasn't like, oh shit, like I didn't say nothing to him. But I'm like, why is the freaking boat not moving? I read the thing up and I look back there, and the pump is pumping a column of air bubbles out of it. Straight air bubbles. Like, what the hell? So I go back there and I go back to my little hatch I got, and I flip the hatch open. And I look in there, and I'm looking inside the pump while it's running. The inspection cover was off. It didn't get put back on. It was sitting there right next to it. But I'm looking in the pump. I was like, I have to take that inspection cover off quite a bit. I get weeds in that boat a lot. Like, if you take that cover off, I don't know if anybody's got a 12 JC pump, a lot of the time a whole bunch of water comes in the boat. Like, it's below the water line. And this boat is sitting there with no water in it. There's no water in it at all. Because it's a suction housing. Like, I never would have thought you would ever want to run the pump with that cover off, ever. Like, I don't know what the hell would happen. But nothing happens. It's the suction housing. It's sucking all the water up. And you can literally watch it. It's like a little vortex of freaking water going into and nothing comes in the boat. Why don't they tell you that? I always shut the engine down to pull that thing off to see if there's something in there, and I get, 8 gallons of water in the boat. I could just pull the cover off while it's still running. There's nothing in there. Put the cover back on, not get any water in the boat. That was bizarre. I was not expecting that at all. To open up my little hatch and look into the insides of a Berkeley pump while it's running. So, yeah. But yeah, after that, the boat ran fine the rest of the day. No more problems, no more weird noises. And I didn't tell my cousin about how I looked inside of a jet pump, but thanks for listening.